Welcome to Electric Universe Geometry, a brand new podcast dedicated to interviewing doctors, engineers, electrical engineers, and scientists, physicists, and plasma physicists all around the world to expose the electric universe geometry. It's a geometric world out there. Thank you for joining us for episode 1. Welcome to episode 1. I'm Buddy James, your host, and today we will be interviewing Aurora. Aurora is a professional artist, and she has started something called Flying Rainbow Lasagna. This is a solo operation. Best way to support me is on PayPal. goldenscaling@gmail.com. I can see you. Oh, there you are. How you doing? Can you see me?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Good. Through the universe, we have been connected, and I already started recording. I'll cut through the episode if there's any inconsistencies or us trying to figure out exactly how to use it.
Cool.
This is, I think I'm starting something new, and welcome to be here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, especially if this is your initiatory episode, like the first voyage. That's very exciting.
Well, it's like I know that I have to do it, and I've already kind of done it a couple times. I have like 4 podcasts, but I want to do something that is more geared towards my audience, because my main audience is electric universe geometry.
Right.
So I've seen that that's where people are more moving towards, and I mean I do a lot of different things, but I want to get everybody's message out there that has pieces of the puzzle, because we all have pieces.
Yes, exactly. I say things like that all the time. That's so funny.
This is Buddy and Aurora's episode. My daughter's name is Aurora, so I'm used to hearing the combo together.
That's beautiful. That's a lovely connection. I think there's a lot of young Auroras out there. Like, it became a popular name at a certain point, for naming your young person.
It did, and I thought it was going to take over, but actually, it really didn't. There isn't too many for a little blip. And when you look back in like the 1800s, there's a real big spike. Aurora, no first name Aurora.
That's right. That's my full legal name. It's so funny.
Really?
Yeah, that's my full legal name. Like, I'm literally just Aurora. And so in paperwork, or like something like, your how you would find me online or whatever, my official name ends up being no first name.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, I will tell you, like, when I changed my name, I legally did it. I didn't know that it would cause a lot of challenges. Like, I'm a galactic walk-in. I already am a cultural outsider. I'm already a bit outside of the box. And then having one name, just like when I go through the airport, and I'm always wearing like something colorful, and I'm a very friendly person, but they're always like, they look at my name, they look at me, they make a big red mark and kind of like give my ticket back to me. Like, it's been a challenge with any kind of thing, like a credit card, when you call up to customer service or something like that, and they're like, let's begin with your name. My name is Aurora, and what's your first name? I say, that is my only name. My first name is no first name. And then I say, no, this is not a prank. That's my real information. Like, it's very hard to, get through the bureaucratic systems of the world, that way it's said, the matrix world.
Well, you know what? I can 100% relate, because nobody thinks that my real name is Buddy.
Right.
And it isn't. And I had to change my name legally, my first and last name. I combined my last name. I don't want to get into the last name aspects right now, but my first name, I've always been called Buddy since I was in a crib. My brother couldn't pronounce Brandon, so it was just Buddy, or he just liked Buddy, and so he called me Buddy. And so cool. That's good that we can both relate there. And most people naturally say, the first thing they say is, "What's your real name?"
Right.
But Aurora is not as unbelievable as Buddy. So people might not ask you, "What's your real name?" when you say Aurora. But when there's no last name, that's like, what are you going to do?
It's hard to fit into the system if you only have one name in this world.
Well, I mean, that gets to a certain point. What is in a name? That's really important. What's in a name? And the people who have one name, uh, they're cosmic. If you think about it, they've achieved a certain level where people just recognize them as one name.
That's right. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we'll continue. So, welcome to the geometric, or sorry, that's the other podcast. Welcome to uh, Electric Universe Geometry, where we explore interpersonal relationships with individual artists, how it relates to the work that I've created, the work that other electrical engineers have created, and just people's personal work, whether it even has to do it with the electric universe. That's just the name of the podcast, so we don't need to put it in a box. And I know art is leading, as always, art is leading science and the forefront of all cultural creatives. So I noticed that you're an artist and you have this flying rainbow lasagna, and I'm super excited to hear your story and to know more, because I could create some stuff like this with the medium that I'm sculpting with, and I want to know more about it.
Wonderful. Yeah, and I know that there's wonderful like parallels or relations between the visual work that you do and the visual work that I do too. I call myself a visionary artist because what I'm sharing is much more about my personal vision or my viewpoint, let's say through my eye of insight up here, through my higher faculties. And it's really not anything that I've read in a book from someone else or that I learned from science. I love what you said in the introduction to this, that you feel like art is leading science in this way. I feel like that's my job or my purpose or my mission, that I have a lot of this information that is higher dimensional information. You could call it math, but when you get to that level, the math is like it's about forms and shapes, not necessarily a linear equation like 1 + 1 = 2. So a lot of this in presenting my ideas that are really, when I say higher dimensional, like my origins are not from around here. I came from a higher dimension to bring this information. And so that my whole challenge has been, how do I find a way to communicate this? The English language is not enough to be able to explore and describe these concepts fully. And I recognize that the scientific community had some reticence to new ideas and other things like that. I definitely chose to be an artist in order to have like the freedom of expression, to be able to share what I perceive as cosmic structural truth without having to have it be, let's say, accepted by consensus. So that this is a way for me to just share very purely, like, this is how I see it, guys, and kind of, not in a bad way, but take it or leave it, like be inspired by it or reject it fully, that's fine. But this is my cosmic viewpoint. And the coolest thing is when I find other people that are also sharing their cosmic viewpoint, and boom, it overlaps, like there's these beautiful commonalities. And then it's like, okay, like you're seeing something that is consensual, you're seeing a real world, because that's what I always say with the, so I do both flat, like two-dimensional art, and also sculptures. But when I do them, they're abstract, but I always say I'm a representational artist doing something like a landscape of an abstract world. Like I'm actually portraying a real place that's got real structure and real form, and it has logical consistency to it. And I didn't come to this through the math world. Like, my personal story is a long story, but I didn't have the math skills to begin with, and was much more of just like going on raw vision. And I was actually dealing with like overcoming a brain injury also, and had lost math skills, and I didn't come here with any of that ability to have a facility with numbers or anything like that. So I had to learn, one, like how to rewire my brain. Now I have the word for it. It's called neuroplasticity, where you kind of like compensate for whatever you've lost, like you use other muscles instead. So I used my visual muscles, and that's really the genesis of me making this artwork, that I found a language that's a visual language through which I could communicate the cosmic or higher dimensional truth that I have to share in this world. And a big part of that cosmic truth is this shape that I have named the flying rainbow lasagna. And so thank you for, giving everyone that information. Like if you want to find me, that's the name of my website, or basically anything that you're looking for. Like, if you're just do the search words flying rainbow lasagna, and that my work will come up. And when I named it that, like my creation process for making this shape or envisioning it or imagining it, which is like, your imagination is a very real thing. It's not a fake thing. In this world,
Oh yeah.
people tell you like, pish tosh, like that's just your imagination. But no, like imagination is creation. So in the moment of imagining and creating this shape, I was really innovating something new, like a new shape that had never been made before. And that's like imagine the creation of like the triangle or a square or
Yeah.
something like that. You get to name it. And so I looked at what it was shaped like, and I decided it was shaped like a flying rainbow lasagna. And then in coming here into this world, into this culture, and trying to explain my work verbally, like that, and now I've learned that that's like a very difficult descriptive search term, and it doesn't fit in anybody's ear holes, and they're kind of like, what am I even hearing? Like it's a very difficult word to hear, but the name stuck, and that's what it is. So it's a flying rainbow lasagna, and lasagna because the edge of it is shaped like a curly lasagna noodle. So in, whatever, with more fancy math talk, we would say it's like a sine wave, right? Like it's up and
Mhm.
down. And this shape is really a higher dimensional torus shape. And so I'm like I mentioned, I'm a walk-in, and I came in about 20 years ago. And at that point, it was just 2001. It was just during the craziness of
Ooh,
9/11. Yeah, it was
nice.
it was part of the
Mine was
interdimensional.
2003. Okay,
Very interesting.
right
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
there are like definitely events that are portals or like entry points or things
Yep.
that disturb the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. And so it was in the wake of those events that I came in here in order to like plant these seeds. And in doing so, coming into time and dimensionality and planting these ideas
How
in
did
consciousness here. What's the question?
how did it come to you?
It
This
like
shape.
very spontaneous. So, and also like under great duress, because that's also part of like it wasn't a near death experience, it was a literal death experience. Like I definitely had a metabolic death, and in that moment, like the person or the soul that used to be in this body died, and I'm literally a higher dimensional being that came into this body. What I did was vibrate the DNA in a flying rainbow lasagna or hyper torus shape in order to maintain the cohesion of these cells of this body, but also, and with as much emphasis, to maintain my cohesion in time. Because a big part of what, like when you die, what happens? Like this is like, when you're a little tiny child and you learn about death, like your goldfish goes bye-bye, like the body is still there, but the fish went bye-bye, right? So the part of you that goes and comes, that intangible part is the result of it's like a waveform that is the result of the dance of your DNA. And this shape is a way to dance your DNA in a new pattern, a new dance pattern. And that new dance pattern doesn't come into conflict with anything that's already been established, which is why this is like a math or a logic problem. But it opens new doors, new possibilities. Like when you add another dimension, you add an additional degree of freedom. And I didn't have this level of like facility with either verbalized language or math talk. Like I'm doing a little bit of math talk right now in order
Mhm.
to share it. I didn't have any of that when I first came in. So all that I had was like the raw information of what it was, the fact that my cells are actually doing it. And then so I had internalized this shape and this waveform. And then it took me maybe about 18 months to externalize it by making my first sculpture. And I got like kids clay at an art store, and like, made like a mushy kind of sculpey Play-Doh sculpture. That was a very rough approximation of this. And I still have it actually. It's just like, like a very rough and ready little prototype. And that
Okay.
was what I used to try to tell people like, there's a new shape and it's this and that. And I would love to tell you more of the details. Like I don't want to inundate, and definitely like I'm sure you have questions and things. But remember, I can't see your face. Thing
Oh,
blipped
you
off.
can't
I
again?
still can't see your face. I know.
Oh,
So I'm just looking at your static image. So I can't tell if you're like wanting to break in. So you have to give me a little cue, and I'll
got you.
give you a minute too for any questions or comments.
All right. I don't know if there's a way where I can split the screen. Let me check this out here. Share screen application window. When I share my screen, my video goes off of me. Um, cancel. You know what? This is about you. So, unfortunately, you know what? I don't know why you can't see me on your half.
Okay.
That's unfortunate.
That's all right, but just keep in mind, like if you're waiting to give me a cue that you have
Exactly.
something to say, I can't see it, so I'm certainly not being rude or anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah. Well, I have a way of sometimes being bombastic, so I'll hop in there when I need to say
Good,
something,
very good. Because I
but I
also
also don't
joke,
want to interrupt. So.
I joke that I'm like the iPod, like it just has like pause button. Like, we'll just keep on going. You just pause. Because I'm full of a lot of information and really happy to share. That's why I don't know if I gave a formal thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to the initiatory voyage of your show, of your podcast here, because it helps me to reach a broader audience. Like I've been here, like I said, as a walk-in into this world, into this this life for about 19 years, and I've always been trying to reach people with this information, and it took a long time for me to like imagine if you were a stranger in a strange land, right? And like you didn't quite know the language or the customs, but you had a lot of important, like valuable stuff that you could teach people about. How would you portray it? How would you get it across? And I had to learn all of these basic lessons of like how do you communicate? How do you portray friendliness? Like how do you be polite is what I'm trying to say. In a world, you learn the customs and all these things, everything from how to dress and wear your hair to what are polite customs and all of that. And even I had to learn technology in order to be able to communicate. Like I, up until like maybe 2008 or so, I didn't have a computer and lived a relatively simple life in a very small art community, just painting and things like that. Like I had to learn to use a computer because what I figured at a certain point, I was exposed to enough technology where I was like, something, this is a way that you can get more people to know about this, because this shape that I'm pointing to, flying rainbow lasagna, it is a dance that I created or initiated, but it's not just for me. And I never intended it as that way. It was always something where it's like, imagine, the first guy that ever invented the electric guitar and he rocked out on the electric guitar. But
Mhm.
it's like, there have been so many wonderful electric guitar players since then, whatever, Jimi Hendrix, Beck, all of these things. Like, like I might be the first person to do this with DNA, but it was never my intention to be the only electric guitar player ever. Like I want other people to take the instrument and run with it. And that's the type of art teacher or music teacher that I am as well. Like if I would never be like, you have to copy me, you have to do it exactly my way. Like, those very strict type of conservatory places. When I teach about flying rainbow lasagna, which is a type of artistry with your DNA, I'm like, you're becoming a genetic virtuoso. And my utter intention is always to encourage the student to embrace their greatness and become, like I call it, becoming an auteur of your life. Like when you are the script writer and you're also the costumier and you're also setting up the shots and you're editing it together, like you're taking care of the soundtrack, like you are creating the artistic expression of your life. And that's what our life is supposed to be like, as opposed to, a grim death march, or as opposed to, some level of determinism that is very unpleasant and uncomfortable, where it's just like, yeah, your book is written for you and you're just going to trudge through these horrible life experiences and then eventually fall over and die. So I'm very much against any of those philosophies or religions that portray your place in the world in that way. And I'm much more along the value system of teaching, like um, you're supposed to be having a joyful experience in conjunction with, let's say, creatorship or divinity. Not like there's some mean bearded sky god that's going to smite you if you do the wrong thing, which is, what a lot of philosophy and religion in this world here. No
Yeah.
offense, but I call it the barbarian world. Like it's a very barbarian world here. Like if you do the wrong thing, I shall smite you. As opposed to like, that's like if you're a musician, it's like you're gonna play the wrong note, like the conductor will smite you. Like, oh my God, like that makes it a little hard to feel relaxed and groovy. And as opposed to a different approach, which is where you're in partnership with the cosmos, like in a creative partnership, the same way you have partnership with musicians, like in a band or in a symphony. You got to make sure that you're playing your part right and you're respectful of others in terms of tone and value and even encouraging of others. So that level of creatorship is what I'm trying to encourage in other people, because when you change your DNA, like you're part of a DNA symphony. You have vibrating strings that are part of your body, and you're making this amazing, beautiful genetic music. but you're not just playing in your own garage with no one else hearing you. You're actually connected to all of these other organisms that are not only other humans, but other plants, other animals, the planet herself, all other life forms in other places, like let's say life forms across time, because you're connecting your DNA to time. So then it becomes the question of responsibility to the music, that you want to play a song where your own body and your own life is healthy, but also you want to create events that are fun for you, but also good for the entire symphony. Like it wouldn't be cool if you did a bunch of things with your creatorship that were self-serving, fun and easy for you. I will have a golden toilet. I will have massive, everything that I want, if it was inconvenient or bad music for everyone else. So that's part of like becoming a virtuoso, or entering the university of the universe. Like you get up to the levels of inner virtuosity. All this is supposed to be natural to, like, not technologically augmented. So you start to gain your powers, and as you gain your powers of creation, at perception and creation, and navigating the world that you're helping to create, you level up in terms of your taking responsibility and sense of empowerment, and also sense of interconnectedness, because you don't want to write and play some bad jazz music that doesn't fit in with everything that's going on. So my contribution to the symphony is this concept of flying rainbow lasagna, and I teach it like at first. Okay, in the basics of my experience here, at first I just did sculptures and painting, and tried to communicate in that way. I didn't really have the ability and articulation to teach it. And then in about 2012, I made a promise to myself. I'm like, I am going to like teach others about this. So that was when I learned technology, got a
Wow.
computer.
You and me
Yeah,
both.
yeah,
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah,
I now I know so much more about why we've connected.
yeah,
Because I do galactic DNA, and I
beautiful.
mean, if that's what you want to call it, I think
Right,
there's a million other words. Birkeland current
right,
uh, uh, scaling, I guess, breaking down how the the energy that comes off of the sun into visceral earthly experiences of living beings.
right.
Now, I want to dial in on your experience that you had, specifically, hopefully, maybe time, maybe dates, because I have dates of mine, and I'm really piecing together out of body experiences, the sun,
Right.
and the sun being responsible for some of these cosmic divine messengers, like Russell talks about, Walter Russell. Um, he during his illumination, if you look back in 1921, there was, I believe, in March 1921, a solar flare. And when you look at the solar flare activity, the CMEs that come off of the sun,
Right.
uh, they are intertwined, interdisciplinary, in an interdisciplinarian way with all things on Earth. We want to call it science or math or art or astronomy, but ultimately it can be all boiled down to interscalar biology and interscalar physics. Uh, I've been studying for quite a long time, so I can help both of us understand larger purposes for our astrogeometry, that we've divined from the universe, or that the universe has ripened us for to be messengers.
Right.
Now, mine was in 2003, but I want to know, my circumstances were right around 3 days after the blackout in 2003. I don't know if you were on the East Coast or not, but we had a huge blackout.
Yes, I lived in upstate New York at that time, so I think I do remember. Was it associated with a big storm, or was it just a weird? like a problem with a hair dryer. What am I trying to? I'm like not remembering it clearly.
It was, they blamed it on a fallen tree.
Okay, all right.
Right. One fallen tree did like a domino step down reactor effect and
Right.
blew out all they
Right.
blamed it on that. But who knows? It could have been a test. There's a lot of different things, but there was also a solar flare um, that was going on during that time and during that specific time.
Right.
Mine lasted 1 week long. It was 7 days, and 7 drawings came to me.
Hmm.
So I'm curious to know about yours, and it ultimately led me to, like, I was raised as a Christian and as a Lutheran. I went through what I got confirmed. Then we all kind of fell away from the church. Then the geometry happened in me, and my family saw it, and it brought all of us back to church, and
Beautiful.
it made like I mean I it was like it was literally a reborn experience, what
Yes.
Christians would
Beautiful.
say being reborn. So I
Yes.
found Jesus there, and then I realized that everything that was talking about in the prophecies that we're talking about in the New Testament,
Right.
and the deceivers and all these other people, you
Yes.
can read it and it's happening verbatim. So I'm just like, whoa, this is all happening. So
Yes.
sorry, that's a handful to talk about, but
No, that's all beautiful. I'll tell you, one point that you made was beautiful. If I rewind a little bit about the sun's emissions affecting all of our events here on Earth, you're spot on with that because the sun doesn't emit just dead, stupid light. Like, no offense to science and the
no
objective materialist world, but they tend to look at it as just like
intelligent.
photons or pieces of energy.
Yep.
And it's rather like naive or disingenuous. It's really possibilities and probabilities and timelines, and it's intelligence. It's intelligent light. It's not just little pieces of like stupid dead energy. And so whatever, something to be like equate, like I can't even connect my brain to my mouth. Like electrons. Electrons also aren't dead and stupid, but the way that everything gets degraded in its use in exploitation in earthly technology makes the objective materialist believe like that these things don't have a native intelligence, but they do, and that's
Yeah.
what we're supposed to be in rapport
Yeah.
with. Um, so the person that lived in this body for the first 27 years and then, like died very suddenly came from a Jewish background. All right. And in the experiences that I came in, I would say like a big part of, and this is very personal to talk about too, a big part of the experience was, I should have died, but I didn't die. And Christ consciousness, again, I always make this really clear. To me, I have no affiliation with any like earthly church or dogma or anything like
Hmm.
that. But I
Same
had
here.
really like direct experience of Christ, which is a being that is a mosaic of consciousness of all of these inner eyes that are like retinal cells joined together. Like it's a magnificent scale being was
Hmm.
instrumental in me not dying. And so as soon as I came in on October 8th of 2001. So it was like
Okay.
just in the aftermath of September 11th, and those events and everything like that. And I remembered everything from the beginning. Like I knew what had happened to me. I knew that that previous person had died and I knew where I came from. But I thought that I was the only sane person in an insane world because where I was living, like it feels to me like there was the spell that had been cast upon people. Like that's what
Yeah.
the events of 9/11 were, and that if you were close to the epicenter, the spell was very strong. And like it was the time when people were calling French fries freedom fries instead of those horrible, like there was a lot of mind control is what I'm trying to say, a lot of propaganda, a lot of mind control. And I could see what was going on, and I didn't at that point connect with anybody that was able to see through the illusions and the false things that were happening there. And the family, like I said, that I'm biologically connected to or that I came from, they're Jewish. And so when I, wear a cross, when I changed and it was evident that I was a very different person and very different beliefs, they were not that accepting of that. Like that felt very whatever, they had a lot of issues in accepting that. So I'm very pleased to hear that you're awakening to geometry, and this geometry, like it's it's partially like a biological and anatomical is what I'm trying to say. Like we have an eye that's like our anatomy, but that eye is also connected to an aliveness that is what I'm considering to be Christ consciousness. Like when your eye is open, that's to me what it means to be in Christ. And you can see all of these things. This is the inner teacher. Like that's what I call it in my class. Like really, I'm just the teacher that I'm trying to get you your cosmic library card. And when you get that, then you have the capacity to learn about anything. Like you can reach out with your mind, with your tendril of attention, and
Hmm.
touch on anything and learn anything. And you don't need a voice narrating in your mind. Like you just know.
Yeah.
And that was where
Right.
my artwork and my knowing comes from. So I like literally I had very, very little math background at all. And there was this opportunity to go to a math art conference that I had like zero confidence that I would be able to go there. I'm like, my friend told me, like, she was encouraging me, you should really go. I'm like, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know anything about this stuff. Like, you can tell my whole posture changed and everything. I felt very like I didn't go to school for this. I have a crazy neurologically damaged brain. Like, I don't know any of this type of stuff. And it ended up being a very good experience of like, cross-pollination of ideas because the mathematicians weren't down on me at all. They were actually super interested in my viewpoint as an artist. And
Yeah.
I learned a lot from their method of thinking about things and describing them. And that I also said that was one of the first places I was exposed to some wonderful technology, things like the ability to 3D print something. So this sculpture here, this is 3D printed, and I have smaller ones and I have little earrings and stuff. Like that was once I learned that you could do something like this and it could make little sculptures like available and affordable. I'm like, oh, I'm going to learn how to do it. So I had to learn like how do you make an object file? How do you do all this different stuff? Like I learned it was very challenging, like a steep learning curve, but it was worth it because it's like when you're an artist, I'm the type of artist like I like to do things from the ground up. So I'm like, okay, like I'll learn how to make paint. Like that's how I am. So like I do that with my two-dimensional painting because I couldn't find paint that was like really bright and vivid and looked like inner landscape that I see. So I figured out like which pigments, which media, like how to put it together. Like none of this whole entire world, like none of it is familiar to me, even though I recognize like other people might have been through the karmic washing machine more cycles and they might be like, you're used to it here, like you know what it's like here. I'm like, no, like I'm totally like this is the first time. Like I learned a lot of new things in order to like just get, like to learn how do you do the laundry? Like I had to learn all of these things for the first time. And yeah, so learning to make paint and learning to make animations and all that stuff, it was another part of like the earth experience from the ground level. Like that's what I'm trying to say, that I am here in solidarity. I'm usually a waveform, like I'm usually not embodied in a physicality or an anthropomorphic form. So there's a lot of novelty in me being here. And I'm here in a physical body because it was super difficult to be able to communicate these ideas, like to plant these seeds into this world. It's a frequency prison, like not to
Yeah.
be negative about it, but there's all of these limitations. Some of them are genetic in their sense, and some of them are environmental or contextual, like the technology that is around us at all times emits these frequencies that makes it very difficult for you to activate your inner eye and get that library card and connect to the infinite library of knowledge. If everybody could do that, you would be kicking ass majorly. Everybody would rise up and be like, I am a Superman, and you would knock down the 5G towers, and then you do 25 miracles before breakfast, and then go off and have a lot of fun. Like so, there's a reason why this world is
Well,
polluted in this way.
there's definitely an art to marketing new shapes, because there's people who are making new shapes and new folds all the time in like origami. Now, we have another commonality in that we both make new shapes, and
Right?
I'm making new shapes constantly. I just got off the phone with Terrence Howard yesterday, and I showed him an image of one of the bubble sculpting shapes that I made, and he got upset
Oh
that
no.
he got upset that it looked like one of his, and he thought
Uh-huh.
that I was taking his proprietary information that he shared with me. Now, Terrence Howard has that same thing that you and I have in commonality, and I'm gonna drop some more names and talk about some more stuff,
Uh-huh.
because this is what is real. What is
Yes,
real is we can't own these shapes,
that's exactly right.
but the issue is we can, and the problem is we can. Hang on, if I could just continue that train of thought. These shapes are plasmoids, and they have energy containment. Now, to create your flying rainbow lasagna in the lab, in my buddy's lab in Oregon, he can make plasmoids. Now I see this. I see your shape.
Right.
This is how I found you. I
Right on.
found you by I saw an image that you shared, and it had a human figure and a drawing with pencil, and it had these there was a shape in it, and I recognized the shape inside of the geometry that I do that is
Right.
the uh, the exact what quality and quantity of geometry of these DNA braids that you're talking about. And so that's what I do. I do the science of what you're talking about and what you've been spreading about for so long.
Yes.
So I want to validate the angle that you're coming at and your work.
Thank you.
And I want to shed some light on it because I see some stuff here that will totally collaborate with some of Michael Evans' work, who
Right.
is a veteran in the field of light sculptures for such a long time. Now, to go back to what I just said, I don't want to be dismissive or upset about the thing about what Terrence and I were having the other day. Now, it's if you look online, um, it's no surprise or wonder that Terrence Howard is one of the hardest actors to work with in Hollywood. I didn't know this, but I'm bringing the. I want to say that when you patent a shape and you patent the process of the shape and the application of the shape, uh, if you can create energy using that shape, you can also I need to turn my mic down. Sorry. You can also uh, own the amount of energy or the type of energy that comes off of that as in like advanced propulsion physics,
Right.
high energy physics. So I want to relate the idea that Terrence and I are constantly coming out with new shapes, new crystals. You have discovered this shape and probably so many more because I've seen your work and I see you also have beautiful dresses and you make clothing as well.
Right. Right. Sorry, I don't know if you can see my top.
It froze for a second, but I don't think it froze on the recording. So
Cool. Can you hear
um,
me again? Are we good?
no, just the picture froze. Now
Okay.
you're good. Yeah, if you have some clothing, I can see some in the back there. Is that your work?
I have
Um,
lots of things. Oh, I have so many things to show you. Here, one
yes,
second.
please. Give us a little show and tell. I love your dress.
So you can probably see. So this is like a little something that I have. Then I also do scarves with these patterns on it. And I mean, if I
Wow.
could take my computer off the stand, I would walk you around and give you a little studio viewing, or I have some things shared, like I could do a share screen. But
Yeah.
like before I delve into visuals, let me
Hmm.
respond to the idea of you guys coming upon the same recipe or the same inspiration, the same shape. I feel like a lot of these ideas, thought forms, and waveforms are at large in the cosmos, that they're like being broadcast. They're like
Yeah,
ideas of a cosmic thinker.
it's a
And
web.
that when you're a
Yeah.
musician or any kind of a creative person, like you pick up on those things, it doesn't surprise me at all that your antenna is working and Terrence's antenna is working, and you guys are picking up on these broadcasts. And so to me, here's how and I'll tell you how I deal with ownership of this shape and everything like that. I feel like we must give artistic credit to the first person who perceived an object or who expressed it effectively. You give them credit And like that's what I basically ask for in my work. Like I have not patented this, and I have not made it a proprietary shape in the sense that I'm the only person that may use it. That was a very conscious decision because I didn't want to be like Gollum with the ring from Lord of the Rings and be
Yeah.
like, it's mine, it's mine, like I'm a crazy maniacal maniac and you never have it. The whole reason why I came here on an earthly mission is to share this with others. So I literally share this, what I say freely with others, with the caveat that I ask for the attribution as being
Right.
the person that actually
Credit.
innovated it. And
Yep.
I think of it like if I were a songwriter, I am a songwriter, in writing this song called The Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that's like, Led Zeppelin, where you say, this is the first person that wrote this song, Stairway to Heaven, but they're not the only singer that has ever sang or played that song. And so many people have taken it and covered it and
Yes.
even made it their own.
Yep.
That is what I want everyone to do with this shape that I offer to humanity. I don't want it to be only something that I use in my own body or my own life. I want each person that's open to it, it's like an optional, not mandatory. Like I'm never that type of evil type of alien that would force it on people. But if you're wanting to participate at this level of dimensionality, that you take it and run with it, that you take this as your inspiration point, as your starting point, or as your tool to achieve or unlock your own greatness. And just remember that I'm the innovator that created it, but please take it and integrate it into your own practice. That's how I deal with stuff like this, because I know what you're talking about, the whole idea, like, what if we could take this shape and turn it into some kind of a turbine or create a plasma shape that
Yeah.
would irradiate benevolent rays everywhere? Like, would I want to patent that? Would I want to make it proprietary where you would have to pay me your $10 monthly subscription, like
No,
to be on
I
Netflix, to
wouldn't.
be able to be on Flying Rainbow
Right.
Lasagna? Like, I'm not like that
Yeah.
as a non-terrestrial being. My value system is not like that. And I also, like, I came with ideas, but I also came to exemplify behavior. And no offense to the barbarians around here, but you live in a barbarian world where it's like kill or be killed, only the strong shall survive. Like, pay me. Like, that's the world around here. And I have
Yeah.
to
A bunch of
emphasize.
heathens. And if I could comment on that,
Yeah,
the views around the world on true crime podcasts have spiked in the past 5 years.
right,
And a lot of people that I know who are just normal, everyday heathens or whatever we
right.
are, barbarians, uh,
Barbarians.
they're getting into this.
Yeah,
And the more people that focus on these bad things, these crime
yeah,
podcasts,
of
the more
course.
it brings that reality around you. And I want to tell people that because it is getting more and more dangerous out there. And if you focus on what you focus on, what you decorate your room in should be a reflection of your inner spirit, your inner self. It's your feng shui.
Yes. Yes, I definitely agree. Like what you perceive or ingest in terms of media affects your consciousness and the quality of your own dream. Like not just your dream when you fall asleep at night, but your dream during the day. So if you're ingesting psychopathology, either if it's written as news from the New York Times, or if it's in these true crime dramas, or if it's in fictional pathology, then you're filling your head with pathological stuff and horror and nightmares, and then that's what you emit. And I make very, very conscious choices here in order to, like, if I make music, I make stuff that is inspirational and uplifting. Like that's the wave that I want to propagate outward. I don't want to propagate pain waves or depression waves or any kind of thing like that. Like once you start to recognize the interconnectedness of your personal dance, your personal music, your what you're doing with your DNA and your mind or your emissions in this world, like your frequencies in this world,
Mhm.
you're affecting everyone and everyone's affecting you. That's really, really big. So in this world, many people are like, they're like tone deaf or literally deaf, like they cannot perceive the frequencies that they're being bathed in. But more and more, you talked about the heathens waking up, like heathens, everybody here, everybody is becoming more sensitized. That's when I say the barbarian world, it's like a very insensitive world and like they don't care, but and people are created in that way. They don't come here in that format. But becoming sensitive again is the inner eye opening. And that's, I mean, people are awake to this now. They say that's what apocalypse means. Literally, that is from Greek apocalypsos, lid opening. So none of
Yeah.
this is
Revealing, unveiling.
That's right. None of this is by definition about either a total destruction or a destruction in the need for renewal. Like that's one of those ideas of like you get from the seasons and from the cycles of plants and deaths and things like that you think, oh, we have to have something die in order to have a rebirth. But like look at your personal experience where you said that you really felt that you had a rebirth and that in your rebirth you got access to greater, let's say, inner organizational principles, greater higher intelligence.
Right.
And
Now,
yeah.
if I could make a comment here, now this is the interface difference of people who decide to take the information like Gollum and put themselves in the center as Christ with the 12 around them, or they decide to and they think they're the circuit, which they think they're God. When you put yourself in the center, you become God and you think you're God and you think the current's flowing through you and you got the 12 around you. But that's not how it works. When you step out of the center and allow a larger circuit to power you,
Uh-huh.
and this is what it means to lose yourself, to take up the cross, or to get rid of, kill yourself, kill your old ego, die, ego death. You have to step aside because what we're talking about is science. Now, the science of it is the global electric circuit. The global electric circuit is powered by the sun. Then there's solar electric circuit, which is the larger circuit. Then there's the galactic circuit.
Right.
Then there's the Leonikia. Now, and then it goes on and on and on. And I saw an image today from the Golden Page where it shows exactly where the Milky Way is, and it showed the heart or the lungs as Leonikia,
Okay.
like either taking in a breath or breathing out. And exactly right where the Milky Way is right where the heart is inside of Leonikia when you overlay it over a lung,
Yeah.
just one lung. Um, Now this this science is geometric. The whole thing is geometry. Um, I want to share my screen if I could for a minute. If I already am, I think I am. And I want to show you that I see the image in the back here that's hanging behind you,
Uh-huh.
that is over the doorway. That looks like what I'm about to show, but with a skirt on it.
Oh, how funny. And also, I'm not seeing your share screen yet, so I hope that it comes through. I'm leaning to the side in case someone wants to try to see what's over my shoulder. And I have a couple of things that I could show too. I love to talk with pictures. I find it much easier than flapping my moving mouth parts. Like, we'll just go directly to pictures. Good, good, good. I'm starting to see your share screen.
Okay, so this behind you, it looks exactly like
Oh, good.
one of those dancers. What are those dancers that spin?
Yeah, yeah.
I forget the name of them.
They're like Sufi
Um,
dancers. They're like whirling dervishes.
yes, whirling dervish.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word I was looking
Yeah.
for. So let's see, where did I post that today? I think I posted it on, let me pull up Facebook. Um, well, that pulls up, that takes a minute.
That's cool.
I should have had some stuff uploaded, so I went back to you here.
Okay. And on the topic of the whirling dervishes, my sculptures are static, but I learned to do animations because this is a moving shape. And so on the internal level, like what you're doing with your DNA, it's a movement or a dance or an oscillation or undulation that is what changes your connection to time. That's where this empowerment comes from. So just understand, like if I'm holding up something that is static, or if you're seeing it hanging up there, like in the real world of pure energy, it's moving, it's oscillating. And so I had to kind of find a way to make animations of it. So I have that to share also.
Awesome, good. Is there a place I can find that online, or I can just we can have you share the screen too?
Do a share screen here. I've got it right all queued up and ready to go.
All right. Well, here, let me explain here what
See what you got.
if if Facebook decides to cooperate.
I know we saw someone's fabulous wedding dress.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely like an $8,000 wedding dress. Not even kidding.
Just gorgeous.
Yeah, that was a good time. That was this weekend. Next weekend's another wedding.
Nice.
Yeah,
You got a heavy wedding schedule.
I do. That's funny. So maybe this will finally work here one day. There we go. So on this topic, um, Frank Chester came up with the chestahedron.
Chestahedron, I've heard of that.
Now, if now we need to all get together and start talking about each other's new shapes,
Good.
and that's what I do all the
Yes.
time. I'm just
Good.
like I love people. Okay, there's a word for people who come up with new words, and
Uh-huh.
that's called a neologist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so people who come up with new shapes should be called uh neogeometrist, neogeometer. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. The word geo and metric, it means earth measuring. And I think a lot of the shapes that we're coming up with at this point are not merely about physical reality, that they exist like in a higher or a hyperdimensional format.
Yes, yes,
So,
they do.
but whatever is the prefix that would connotate hyperdimensional shape, like maybe polygons, polygonal might be a good descriptive term,
Yeah,
multi-sided.
I agree. I think that's actually one of the best ways to describe it because that's how charge works with
Yeah,
rotating uh, normal polygonal shapes.
yeah. And as when I first saw your drawings, I think do you call it the Dougherty set? Am I thinking of the right thing? Like I
Yeah.
don't, yeah. So when I saw that, I'm like, wow, it's exactly like the stuff that I draw. And
Yes.
my affiliation with it is understanding it as the energy body, like your energetic anatomy, like the vortexes that go through your body and connect to your spine that are known as the chakras in the Far East.
Look at that shape. If you
Yeah.
do not know that shape, that's
Yeah.
all in all of your work.
Yeah, exactly. And when
Yeah.
you're done sharing, then I'll get like you put down a card in poker, I'll put down a card in poker. Let's do this.
Yes. I love it. I love it.
So let me
So,
ask you, how do you perceive these shapes? Do you see them, feel them? Do you calculate it? Tell me about your creative process of coming up with this.
okay. So I created a set. Um, a set is a field. Well, I guess this is a field. Um, I didn't know exactly what it was as it was being created through me, but tried to find geometry that mirrored it on Google in 2003.
Right?
Then I continued and tried, didn't find anything. So I just realized that it wasn't available out there, because back in 2003 they had almost everything still, but a lot we got a lot more online now. But I was like, dude, I couldn't find anything.
Right?
So I started talking about light spiraling, and then my dad was like, the time. So it was almost like he knew to not introduce it to me to see what I would do with it and if I could go in my own way before he introduced me to Walter Russell.
Uh-huh.
So, but my process is I came up with these 7 drawings. Then I started rotating them, working with them in 2003. Then in 2005 they lined up, and for some reason all of the alignments have been on birthdays of either my kid or my brother's kid, my
Right?
nephews. Um, it's just that's the way the universe has worked for me.
At birth
Uh,
makes a portal that energy can come through.
it does, and I'm so much into the interdisciplinary approach with this geometry,
Right?
so much that I've come up with my own many of my own theories, but the one I like to push, which is I love the way how you refer to the cosmos as a symphony, and we're transceivers where we're transmitting and receiving, and you're playing in the symphony because it is all sound. Um,
Totally.
but you asked about my process. My process is I came up with one set, and I've been studying that set for 17 years this last week. Next year, she turns 18, and she will be, um, you know, fully
Right.
unveiled. But I'm writing a series of books,
Mhm.
and I've been unveiling this process for quite some time on the Geometric View podcast
Right.
and other different types of things. Now, I just want to say this 67% of my viewers on the Geometric View are not subscribed. So there's a lot of secret people watching this.
Right.
Which,
Hi,
which
secret people. How you doing out there?
yeah, I love it. So I'm like, all right. So then I looked at my ratio of male to females of who's watching my show, and females only make up uh, like 27% of my viewers, which it lied and said that it was zero for pretty much about 6 months, which I'm super mad about. It kept saying that no females were watching. Then all of a sudden it came out and told the truth and said 27% of my viewers are female, and they're watching 45% of my content.
Right.
So that's way more preponderance of females watching my content. And I had no idea because this is very thick, very deep content that I get into, and it's hard for a lot of males that I talk to get into. But I lay it out in such a way that I can teach it to kindergartners and to everybody. And women are more attuned to someone who can describe something intuitively. So I do come from an intuitive perspective. Failed epically out of uh, algebra one, never made it through, done. And I've never gone any further in math. And then all this stuff is coming, and I was told by the universe not to care or worry about the math because
Yes.
that's what other people will do. Like they will worry about the math. I already did it. The
Totally.
geometry's done,
Totally.
you
The
know.
math will describe what you already figured out. I'm totally with you on that.
And this has been a concept that almost all of the greatest philosophers throughout time have said
Uh-huh.
that artists will be the ones to and are the ones to divine and show the future and the cusp of the cultural horizon. They have a way of fringing out the culture to feel and see and sense in a way that nobody else can perceive yet.
Yeah. Hey, can I pause for a moment and just speak to the idea of your male versus female audience? I think it's rather antiquated to even ascribe certain personality characteristics or intelligences to one gender or sex or the other. Like at this point, like I think people either
I
see
didn't know. I mean, I'm
they think they're
brainwashed. You know what I
they
mean? I'm
yeah they
propagandized.
yeah I think it's either like you have an inner connection to this material that you can see it, feel it, sense it, and then you're drawn to it and to learn about it. And often people will do self-education and prop up the math, like they learn the math that they need in order to be able to understand these concepts. But you guys also got to understand that, no offense to any math scientists, objective materialists in this world, but what you're dealing with is like dark ages stuff. Like the human technology and human viewpoint and the perspective that is available right now from technology is very, very limited. And I think there's a great deal also of scientific hubris. So if in order to have greater degrees of freedom and really do things with superpowers, you have to kind of put aside all the stuff that science describes as truth and go into a different level of experience. Then science catches up and says, oh, we were wrong. We actually didn't know about this, or now we've discovered this. Like, you just got to understand that science is not a completely correct cosmological viewpoint. When you start to get your higher dimensional stuff, there are things that you simply perceive, and that there is no intellectual ladder that you have climbed up to say, analytically, we know this to be true. Like, you know it because you see it and feel it inside.
Yes, indeed. And when you said regular polygons or
Huh?
polygonal,
Yeah.
uh, this is it. This is literally it. This is um, Theodorian roots. Excuse me. This is a simple concept that I just came up with. This
Right.
maybe late 2019, 2020, early 2020. Now, this is going to advance mankind, I think, more than a lot of other things throughout history, and I hope that it does. That's just my aspirations, because if and when, and we will pick up on this through the universe game, which I'm sure we're all going to be playing like Sudoku this next couple years. I'm going to release it, and inside of the universe game, you have inherently the patterns that you're working with. So what you received from your illumination, that's why I wanted to have you on this show, because I want to see the image that drew me to you.
I
And
think I've got it right saved up on my screen. That's one of the things
awesome.
I'll put down. My next poker card.
Good, good. So, see, now I'm going to put a few out, and then we're going to go to you.
Yeah.
This is it. This is all I wanted to show. So you're next. But when you create a simple polygon and you inscribe the polygon with the same shape,
Right.
it creates uh, these Bessel functions.
Yeah.
This is a circle within a circle. This is what a drum produces, is a Bessel function.
Mhm.
Now, it took me for a long time to learn this stuff, and I'm teaching it, and I'm on the prowl nonstop giving this information out, because this has to be known. Now, repetition of this single Bessel function, scaling outward using projective geometry, you scale the exact same circle Bessel function over and over iteratively, just like the Mandelbrot set was created and how the Julia set was created. This is fractal plasma spacetime, or fractal. This is the fractal geometry of plasma and how it works. So exactly what you're talking about is what's happening. This is a DNA. So
Right.
this shows um,
Right.
this shows. I always have a hard time trying to remember the quantitative and qualitative geometries of how charge dissipates, integrates, and reintegrates and relates with bodies. So this is how the field is created. Then the forms are a product of this. Now I've gone through a bunch of different stuff with sonobiology, which is sound. And if I could read this, and then it's your turn, um, I want to say that it
Before you X
collectively,
out, yeah, before you X out that image, let me say what I'm seeing is
yeah,
visual harmonics. And I even know someone that is working with this from the direction of prime numbers, that she was
yep,
mapping number lines and where the primes make basically like a rainbow shape, like an arc or a sine wave, that
Azura,
there were all of these, say it again?
Azura Wind,
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And
I know
yeah,
we're here
I
together. Go
that
ahead.
it's beautiful. I feel like these are all like there's a primary ray of consciousness that is coming through various different human forms, that it might come through prime numbers, or it might come through pure visual mechanics, or understanding light waves, or it's understanding harmonics. And this is what science is moving beyond, the understanding of numbers as just being like markers for numerals that are like this shows three things, or this shows four things. Like now science is moving into the idea of numbers as shapes, like
Yep.
Mark Rodin's work of vector-based math, or Adinkara's, like the science is just, sorry, math, like high-level math is just starting to catch up with the idea that math can be a shape or a form. And
Yeah.
once you're able to get to that level, you've bridged this theoretical place where you are like writing sentences out of numerals into a place that has structure and form, and that actually relates to our biological world and relates to our experienced world of the five senses here.
Number as essence.
Yeah,
Number as essence is
yeah,
what Cosmic Sojourner Chris on my podcast
nice.
refers to that. And it is. This is number as essence. This is the sun.
Right.
This happens to be the square. This is inverse square. This is the only thing that the inverse square is. This is E equals MC square. That's what it is right here. This is what I've been studying for 17 years. Just this. All these new ones are brand new that I just came up with, and I haven't even started to get into it. And there's an infinite amount of them. So what I do is I take the Doherty set, and I I show how I take the field of the Doherty set, which is a fractal field,
Mhm.
and I cut out simple shapes and I put them together using this sculpting technique that Terrence taught me.
Uh-huh.
And
Like
I want
using
to,
the
and I want
acetate
to,
sheets, the clear
if I
sheets,
can,
the acetate.
it is acetate,
Yeah,
yes.
cool.
Now, I want to reiterate that the Terrence, the church that he released his geometry through,
Uh-huh.
does give permission for people to share his work
Uh-huh.
if it's for educational purposes.
Got it.
Now, I could share his work, but after talking with him last night, it seems like he might not want me to share it. But he did tell me that if you want to make money off of it, then you have to talk to the church and make a legal transaction. I'm not trying to make money, and I've never tried to make money. So, um, sorry to bring Terrence into your episode, but
It's all right. That's
I
all right.
don't normally
I
do
know
this
it's
either.
very challenging when the question of commodifying all of this. And it also reminds me of the movie Contact, where it's like humanity is gifted with these blueprints for, a higher dimensional vehicle, but there's some aspect of each person having a puzzle, needing to work together and
Yeah,
having to kind of let go of not ownership, but like the individual control in order to collaborate together, even though you should always have creative control of your work. But I think
yeah,
like it's this at this point, this is becoming a collaboration. Like music is a collaboration. You definitely take
yes,
credit for your own artistry and your own melody that you're playing, but understand that you're influencing and being influenced by the other musicians. That's part of
yep,
it. Like
yep,
any one of those experiments with multiple non-synchronized metronomes that eventually synchronize because the slower ones get faster and the faster ones get slower. Like you're connected on a frequency and energy and wavelength format. You're getting stuff from other people and giving it out to other people. And also, it's coming from a giant cosmic cell phone tower. Like, I use that as an analogy, but it's a very positive cosmic cell phone tower. Like the sun is the nearest broadcaster, but it's really a signal that is coming from a larger place. And yeah, if your antenna is working, you should be picking up on it. So the question is like, is it possible to go past the barbarian tendency towards commodification and ego gratification in order to work together to bring this into being? And I'm also, so I know that was a big blah. And also, I'm a proponent more of the idea, just like in that movie Contact, that the blueprints that were being sent are something more fun and interesting than just another dynamo or another electric doodad or another thing that allows us to make electricity like 3 cents cheaper. Like I really am of the opinion that taking these tori, vibrating them in a higher dimensional setting, that it is about more than just doing what I'm saying, creating free energy or having some tool for augmenting our energy usage. It's really about consciousness travel, pure freedom of consciousness, the capacity to understand or let's say comprehend and perceive things that would have been imperceptible or incomprehensible before. Things that are much more fun and interesting than just lighting your house with a light bulb for 3 cents cheaper. So keep that in mind. If like we're coming upon these amazing cosmic truths, I think that it's about focusing beyond their commodification and looking at the greater. The finger is pointing at something much greater. The greater implications of what we can do with this stuff. My dog is barking a little, sorry.
that's fine. My dog was ringing earlier. I had to take her collar off. um, so if I could just read this, this is from Jason Verbelli. I'm sure you're familiar.
Now, I don't know if I know his work.
Um, yeah, he's great. He goes by the Real Verbs on YouTube. But he says sound, light, electricity, and gravity are all spherical propagations,
Okay.
like a spherically expanding shock wave outward in all directions from a point source. Within that spherical boundary are concentric shells like Russian nesting dolls. And then I'll say that those concentric shells create toroids. These toroids are the first principle geometries of Bessel functions and Birkeland currents. And then that's where helicity comes from, helical entanglement. All helicity comes out of toroids in this same geometry here. So the distance between, and then he goes on to say, the distance between each concentric nested sphere is equal to a wavelength of light. And I agree with everything he's talking about here, but I would put gravity in quotations. Light is defined as the visible spectrum range for humans, which would be shock waves of nested concentric spheres that are coherently spaced between a certain nanometer wavelength. As those spheres expand through you, past you, around you, you experience the nested shock waves, and I see this in your geometry. As a frequency of light at the rate of c, or sound at the rate of about 720 miles an hour at sea level, etc. Although sound requires a medium to travel, electromagnetic radiation and light does not require any medium to propagate. But if there is a media present, it will be affected and present the already existing packet. Oh, I don't know if I read that right. It will be affected and present the already existing packet. There is media throughout the cosmos in any case, but it's not required for this emissions theory. And in this theory, there is no particle wave duality, since all emissions are spherical propagations. And if you were to take a cross section of those nested spheres and trace a path on one plane from the point source, you would see that the wave on the xy axis, but it is not a wave. That is just a cross section of the nested expanding spheres. So think about that with your flying rainbow lasagna, because I can totally see it as Jason Verbelli lays out here, because the wave is right along your propagation of the skirt, and your rainbow lasagna there. The wave is in regards to a two-dimensional graphical representation of a rectilinear path from a source of the actual 3D expanding sphere. Jason Verbelli. Taking into consideration what Jason is talking about here and continuing it on, Theodordian roots, which is the geometry I just shown, we see the projective dynamic geometry of cascade filaments. These are just fractal repetitions or recursions, like basically what I just said. I don't want to reiterate it. The process we see and perceive and sense, this is all of it. This literally produces it. So this is important because of electric futurism, Elon Musk, neural net, everything is the senses. The senses are constantly deceptive and they're out of focus. Think of how many people are wearing lenses and glasses to keep our eyes in focus. What if there was ways to test all of our other senses to keep those in focus, and the focus of your pineal, your direct connection out. Should there be an exact science, quantitative and qualitative science, for us to know that we need to take more magnesium to get our third eye glowing? People should be going to the doctor, and the doctor should be saying, you need to eat this to become more lit, not more sedentary. So I'll go on to say it all starts as spheroidal and spherics. Spherics are the sound of lightning and what you hear on the radio. But anyway, those also goes with spheres. The perturbation of the spheroid creates the toroid. Repetition of this process produces the Bessel function. Projective iterations produce the helical filaments inside the Birkeland currents. Now I want to go to your work because I had to highlight that and show that, because this is important, and I want to point out certain places inside of your work that I see this geometry happening, that Schrodinger was talking about, that Roger Penrose is talking about. So I'm showing more science and more math to our work, and that just to continually validate it and bring more purpose to it for the masses. So now I'm going to See if we can get to your screen. If you want to share,
Yeah.
probably your entire screen would be the best way.
Definitely. And I'll also speak to that point that you were making about doctors. Doctors in this time and place, they actually prescribe all sorts of fluoride and fluoride derivatives to put your plan to sleep. Take Xanax and more Prozac and more. It's like people are prescribed everything they possibly can in order to. But we are inundated by every single toxicity and frequency toxicity to
Hmm.
make sure your pineal gland does not function correctly.
Yes,
Like
they
I
don't
don't
want you
want
to
to get into
feel.
the whole dark agenda, but oh my goodness, there's so much. It's an uphill battle. Just understand that. But you certainly like I reclaim my senses. I reactivate my senses. I encourage everyone to do this. It ain't easy though, kid.
Yeah, they discourage us to feel. Oh, guess
Yes.
what? You broke up with your boyfriend. You're gonna feel horrible unless you do drugs. Or we
Yeah.
got we got this and a Prozac, and you won't
Right.
even feel it,
Right.
dude.
To keep state-sponsored drugs is the key thing. Like you must take the correct pineal gland reduction
Yep,
drugs, which is
yep.
like Brave New World or any kind of these, horrible fantasies that were about putting people asleep. So yeah, it's very, very difficult. I avoid all fluoride water. Like literally, people know me. I always bring my own canteen of water, and I intentionally live in a non-fluoridated community and all these things because like it's so difficult. And they spray crapola in the
Yeah.
air that is also meant to inundate you with chemicals, reduce your higher faculties. Because again, if you have this actually fully functional and fully focused, like you can see through time, you can control your destiny, you can do all sorts of things that are considered superpowers. They deafen those meanies, those
With controlled
oops.
breathing too.
Yeah, I
If you
know.
add what you're talking about with controlled
Yes.
breathing, like Wim Hof method, he was just on Joe Rogan.
Huh?
These superheroes are coming out of the woodwork and they're teaching us how to go under ice and keep our breath. David Blaine, he's teaching people how to hold their breath for 4 minutes plus in a matter of 20 minutes. It's all breathing. We have control of this, and we have control of our mind and our heart deeper through breathing.
Yeah. And what I
And
just like to,
go ahead.
I'm not a technologist or a transhumanist in any way. Like, I'm just really clear about that. Like, my non terrestrial presence is supported totally by natural energy or divine energy. I'm not about the use of technological augmentation for like telepathy or Neuralink or any kind of thing like
Right.
that. I'm really concerned about ongoing vaccine experiments that affect DNA and RNA because, again, you're part of a symphony of life. And even if it's those guys over there that are getting inoculated and that it's changing their DNA and they're becoming genetically modified humans, it still affects the rest of the band.
Hmm.
You're like, what's that music over there? It sounds terrible. Like someone's blasting Metallica. No offense if you like Metallica. I know. But like that doesn't fit with the rest of the symphony. What's going on over there? Oh, it's a bunch of things that got
Well,
injected people.
to add a little bit, you don't know that the symphony is beautiful unless you have the gnawing, gnashing teeth on the other end
No,
telling you that
no.
you can't,
Yeah, yeah.
you
Are you kidding me?
literally,
Like when you
you
go
can't
to the
recognize, you
when
can't
you go
recognize that it's warm unless you've
no.
experienced
Well,
cold.
sorry, but when you go to the symphony, you actually do not have a competing rock concert in the same concert hall where you're like trying to listen to Mozart and the beautiful, subtleties of the violin playing, and then you've got this electric guitar screaming away. Like we actually don't set up society in that way. So I gotta
I
say,
like your perspective
I
because I've
know it's
always come down. I've always come down the same train of thought as you, and so many people want to go against the grain. I'm playing devil's advocate right now.
I know. And some people are like that way. They're like, oh, they're your dark teachers. I'm like, they're crap musicians. They're not teaching me
Yes,
anything except what
fuck
crappy music
yeah,
is.
dude.
I know.
Seriously, that is what I needed. That is what everybody here needs to hear.
Right.
They're your dark teachers, dark music. I mean, come on.
No, they're
No,
just
you
very
got to
good
experience,
musicians.
and then they'll tell you you have to know your dark side in order to know the light. You
Right.
have to take a taste of your dark side in order to know the light. I don't think that that's
I
necessary.
completely agree. I feel like the dark side is an implant or something that is non-native, that it is not indigenous to who we are as a soul or as the definition of human, and that it's literally part of what we are fighting against, or let's say our all of these tori and the energy centers and chakras of the body, it's a refinery. Like you're refining events in time until you are totally focused and in aware, like a coherent light beam, of only the events that are supposed to be in existence. And those are events that are of like health and vitality, as opposed to death and disease. And that's just what you're supposed to be experiencing, as opposed to these peripheral realities and possibilities that are they're not harmonic, they're disharmonic. That's what I'm trying to say. Like if you mash your finger into the keyboard, that's not music. Like that's just horrible noise. And so we need to focus everything that we're experiencing away from the noise to get to the actual signal. And the actual signal is a series of events that we want to be in experience of. And that's basically, I just described to you the time diagram that I'm always drawing. Like I started out with artistry and making this as a personal expression, and then I organized it into an actual class, like with lessons that would make sense to other people. Because I just have to say, like every time that I've been here, I've been like, I'm just going to make a sculpture and I'll show it to everyone and they'll get it, or I'll just make a drawing and just show it to people. And like nobody ever understood. They needed explicit description to be able to understand it. So every time, I don't mean to like roll my eyes or whatever, but to say like, okay, I had to learn, like I'm going to have to describe this in even more detail. So that was what I did in 2012. And I taught that class for 7 years. Like I created a whole curriculum and a way of describing all this that makes sense, so that you understand, like when you're looking at these torus shapes, you're looking at bundles of timelines, and that they are arranged or nested mathematically. The quote that you read was about these spherical nested proportions, like the Matryoshka dolls of density and reality and levels of consciousness. And we contain those levels of consciousness in our body. And of course, we can see with our 5 senses the physical body and poke it with your finger, you know that exists, but you have these subtle bodies too. And when we share screen, I'll show you what I got. Their subtle bodies are arranged according to these color formations that we know is the rainbow or the spectrum. Like you're more dense here and you go up through less dense here until you're at the least dense place you can be, and you're at the singularity. Like do you want to do, let me do share screen and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Okay. Oh my goodness, I have to click on a thing. I click on a thing. Oh my goodness, I want it to work. There we go.
Take your time. No. I can just edit this out.
No, I'm sorry. It's asking me to do something. A window has popped up. I had to press buttons. Good, we're there. No, yes, am I working? I'm not working yet. Hold on. Technology is hard. I pressed share screen. It asked for good. It had to get acceptance. I had to give denial. Something had to happen. I'm still waiting for this one.
Yes.
Doing it?
Yes.
Or you can see everything. Good. Okay, so this is probably the image that you were talking about that you might have first seen that caught your eye in looking at this. This is a sketch out of my sketchbook where I'm showing the anatomy. There's a little bit of the anthropomorphic human anatomy, but what I'm really showing here are your higher faculties. And so that's what this pencil drawing is. There's also a scratchboard drawing, if I'm wiggling that over here, if you can see that properly. That is like an etching that I did, years later with more measuring and more precise technique. This etching shows really well the way that your physical anatomy, that is anthropomorphic or human shaped, integrates with this chakra, just means spinning wheel of energy, this energy body anatomy. And each one of these really represents a layer of time. And you're looking at a static picture, but it's actually objects that move, and they're swirling vortexes.
Dynamic. It's dynamic geometry. Yeah.
What makes the vortices swirl is the dance of your DNA. And these vortices are time vortices. So the dance of your DNA and the movement of your DNA is what propels you through time. And these are also structural time elements, like where I'm waving my cursor. These are bundles of possibilities and probabilities. And as you learn to dance flying rainbow lasagna or move your DNA in new and exciting formats, what you can do is rearrange these time structures. That's what it means to become a virtuoso or an auteur of your own lucid dream of reality, where you are creating the events as part of your intentional use of your DNA.
And it's a dance. Can you talk more about the dance? Because it is. I mean, it is a dance.
Absolutely. When we go back to my face, I'll give you more. Can you see me? Am I in the thumbnail? I don't know if you can see me. If you
I can see you.
Good, fantastic. So the dance is about the oscillation movements that DNA is always making. That DNA is not a static object. It's not something that's just in a linear in a line. What it does is it splits itself apart and does all of these amazing curly cues and weavings and weaves itself back together. And in those moments of being split apart, there's a great deal of potential in the new combinations you can create. Like technically, you've only got 4 notes, right? You can hear my piano a little bit in the background there. You got 4 notes. You've got A, C, T, G, and you're going to play all the songs of creation of biological life here using those 4 notes. But you have trillions of cells, and you have you have long songs to be able to rearrange those 4 notes into an almost uncountable number of new combinations. That is what you can do with Flying Rainbow Lasagna. So let's say that that's the code for cancer in your body. And you're like, I don't actually like that music. Let's rearrange it so that it has a different sequence. Let's have it not expressed. Let's basically, this is what everyone now calls and knows as epigenetics, which is the idea that just because you have something written as a potential in your DNA code does not mean that the body morphogenically give form to it. It's a thought potential. It doesn't have to be experienced. What if you can go even deeper and reprogram the thought potential? So I don't know if you can see this over here. I'll show you. This is another painting that I've got that I'll even zoom in more, where you've got the anthropomorphic form and all of these energy centers that are arranged that are part of your anatomy, and then there's this world around you that is a world of abstraction, like where I'm wiggling my cursor. This is pure time, and this is the real reality. Oh, say it again.
Oh my gosh, can you zoom in?
Yeah, there you go.
Dude,
Yeah.
you and I stumbled upon some very almost identical this. Oh, dude, the I'm almost blown away the similarities
Beautiful.
in your work, in my work.
Good.
Um, Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm blown away. I'm aghast.
Good. I'm so happy in the best possible way. Like, yeah, your mind is being blown by seeing these images, because that's why I painted these paintings. This is literally my form of communication, let's say from my home world, that we talk in telepathic pictures. It is a waveform language, or a language of frequency. It's a language of color and line and shape and form and musical tone, and also of movement. And these paintings and what I'm doing, like I feel like the words that I'm saying are much less important. Like, prioritize what your senses are feeling by looking at the imagery. That's how I really try to communicate to people here. And these are all pictures of time and map of time. It's a map of the higher dimensional realms. And this is also, spoiler alert, our home world. Like, I'm not the only one that's from this level of abstract reality. And people, got kind of mushed down here. Like, you're in a genetically degraded body. That's why humans don't all have their higher faculties working perfectly. Like, if I asked you, is it normal to see the future? People would say, no, that's a special talent or a gift only for special psychically gifted people. I'm like, no, everyone is supposed to be able to see the future. You're supposed to be telepathic. You're supposed to be able to see and heal your own body diseases. Like, here people pay a lot of money to go to get a reading from an intuitive, or, to go to a doctor who will treat you. But what's supposed to happen is that you can see your own body and you can tell, like, oh, my orange is looking a little pale, or I'm at a slanted at an angle and I'm supposed to like tidy up around it. Like, you can see your heart, you can see everything that's going on inside, and then also be empowered to know how to fix your biological body. That would be considered like the very basics of being able to tie your shoes, or get your own drink of water, like as a little child. So everyone here is like a psychic infant. No offense to any of that, because it can be noble and beautiful, like you're at the beginning of your journey. But we're supposed to have this awakening where the inner capacity becomes awakened, and then we can do all these things that are basically, it's the process of maturation. Here, wait, how do I stop sharing, go back to my face? I don't know if you can see me yet.
I can see you.
Good, fantastic. The process of maturation is the process of like gaining all of your faculties. just like, if you're a little tiny baby, babies come here and like your eyes don't quite focus and you can't quite see what's going on and you don't understand the things that you're hearing with your ears. Like it takes time to learn how to not only perceive clearly, but to process, make sense of, make order of the sensations that we're receiving. So, it took me a long time to be able to translate what I saw and experienced internally into actual drawings. Like I had to learn about getting a compass and measuring things. I didn't come here knowing any of those things. Just like when you're a little infant, like you don't come here knowing any of those things. So I've been on the journey, even though I'm, a rather advanced, higher dimensional person. I had to come here and learn like how to do laundry, how to use a protractor, how to draw these shapes effectively. That's big. That's a big lesson. Or how to play the piano. I had to learn like from the beginner's state. I did not come as an expert at any of this, but what I came at was an expert of these shapes, these forms. Like I just know that to be truthful inside of me, and I had to learn like how do I express it here. So I think I told you about like my journey of like learning how to mix paint or like whatever. I had to learn how to make that sculpture that's hanging up there. I had to learn about all these things, but it's been a fun adventure, but also very challenging, and I did a lot of social faux pas.
Now that is a big process of what it is that what we do is we have to teach ourselves this stuff because Michael Evans had nobody to teach him how to create his space construction set.
Right.
I had, I have no one who taught me how to create the Doherty set. You
Right.
had no one to taught you how to create the flying rainbow lasagna,
Totally an exploration.
and and this and how much it has affected our lives. Working through it, trying to describe it to other people, it's just it's our mo, it's our mode operandi,
Right. Right.
and we need to express these higher truths to people. I wanted to comment on epigenetics
Good.
and the picture that you had where the human was inside and the field was outside.
Right.
Now, if you think about it, genetics makes up maybe 25 to 30% of who you are. Maybe. I'd probably say a lot less. Um, who you really are is the epigenetics, and that's the global electric circuit. And that's the geometry that we do. We do the space-time geometry, we do the quantum geometry, the inner space geometry, the taglines and the words that used to be on Wikipedia but aren't there anymore because they were, oh wait, we shouldn't tell them that much because there's truth is always being censored more and more. So
I'm
th-
with you with the idea that you're not your genetics. Like you are a form that's like a song or a melody that then acts through a body. And you try to look for or inhabit or make your body like inhabitable. Like, I mean, apologies for interrupting because I know you were just about to say something, but like you can change this is your vehicle for self-expression, but you can also change your vehicle for self-expression. Like not only get rid of tendencies towards disease, but you can modify, let's say it's a handyman special, like your body needs some fixing up, you can make it its best so that you can express yourself in health and vitality through your body. Like that's what I did with my body.
Well, I had to learn at a young age mind over matter because aren't we all scared shitless of death until we conquer the fear of death? Yes, we all are. And once we conquer the fear of death, we can move on and realize that death, it wears your sting, and then your eternal body is born. That's the way I feel anyway. And I mean, I mind over matter, and you're not gonna die. You're always gonna live. Everybody's gonna live. Everything is eternal. Everything is recorded.
Well, you have options. Like in this world, people come in as beautiful infants and they're taught like death is inevitable and you're gonna grow old like grandma and then eventually fall over and die. But death really, like if this is, the four vortexes of time that make up a basic energy center or chakra of your body. What you want to do is go up the center where my silver pen is going, so that you're going back to the singularity that emitted you, and you're kind of like making an unbroken circuit. And if you're slanted at an angle, then you end up hitting the edge, like that old game Operation, like where you're trying to pick the little bone out of the little guy, and you hit the and thing, the buzzer goes off, and like, sorry, you lose, game over, try again. Death to me is like being slanted at the wrong angle or going in the wrong direction. And there was a time for at what we experienced as being human where death never existed. So here, in this time and place, it's remembered as a mythological time of the immortals, but really it's the world that we came from, and it's the way that the world is supposed to be set up. You're never supposed to die. Everybody is supposed to go up that central core timeline, being their ideal self, having ideal experiences, and then eventually, reconnecting with the divine thing that emitted you, and that you're never supposed to go at an angle. And here what happens is you go at an angle and you die over and over and over and over and over again. Like it's the biggest, I want to say, waste of
That's what hell
energy.
is. That's what hell
Yes,
is.
that's right.
Literally.
Yes,
Hell is
totally.
eternally in motion. What you're just described perfectly fits biblical scripture. Literally, whether people are biblically trained or not, it's a history book.
That's right.
So
Those,
if I
the vortexes, the edges of the membrane that make up the vortexes, that would be prosaically hell. That's where consciousness residues reside, and the consciousness residues are there of people that were alive. And also there's what we would call demons, which are supernatural consciousness residues that never were really alive, that affect your life when you are here in the middle of the vortex, and
yes.
then torment you when you're on the membrane trying to travel in a new direction.
Oh my, oh my gosh, you are 100%, 100%, 1,000%, I believe, right. Um, the membrane is where electricity, the charge in the body is on the skin. The charge on anything, any plasmoid, any creature is on the skin. It's on the surface, even on the earth. Charge aggregates to the edges and the points
Right?
and the tips of things. Now, if I could go back to what you were just describing, if you could hold that torus up, be so kind to hold the torus up. Thank you. Now, you were describing going towards the center as going towards source.
Right.
Uh, now, the Bible talks about good luck getting in the center because it's extremely narrow, very hard to get into, and that's why the practice of the secret cults exist, because some of them have to put out fangs in order to scare people away, so that only truth seekers are bold enough and brave enough to come into the inner workings. Now, the scary part about this is that when you start to make things secret, you start to hide the information. It's sacred and it needs to be shown upon, and the light needs to be shining out. You need to, don't hide that shit. And that's the thing that keeps happening over and over. And you can see the Rosicrucian right here inside your
Yep. It's like the Knights Templar
Knights
cross.
Templar.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, the going into the gate is really important. It's extremely hard to get in there, and it takes constant work on yourself, both physically, mentally, spiritually, and the dogs are on the outside. The dogs are, like you said, they can't get in. They're trying to get in. The information, they don't understand it. They hate us because we're spewing it out of us, and they don't understand it. And other people are going to do, they're scared someone's going to do something with their sacred information that they don't even know how to use.
That's right, totally. It's all misappropriated, that they've taken these cosmic truths, like they stole a library card, got
Yes.
a little bit of information, and then they try to use it for their own personal power and personal gain. And they're like every pathological personality characteristic. Like what you're supposed to do is, as you're raising your energy and you're getting access to these inner qualities, that you are refining out the characteristics that are those that are negative, that would cause you to use these gifts badly, So they've got artificial augmentation that allows them to do things that are like above their weight class in terms of their inner development. And we're supposed to do this powered completely on, you know, real love, real divinity through your inner development. It's not supposed to be something that you can technologically augment or take a pill or buy in a store. Like none of this is about materialism. All of this is about real heart.
It's biological, but unfortunately, the biological hardware can be tapped electrically because everything's electrical. So, whether we like it or not, I'm not for transhumanism at all in any manner or eugenics. And they both ride the same card. Actually, the eugenics changed their name to transhumanism.
Yeah.
That's unfortunately what happened. Um, there's a lot of weird stuff that's been going on the
Yeah,
planet.
exactly.
But I wanted to comment again on what you're holding
Right.
here. Now, when I was talking earlier about allowing the source to work through you,
Mhm.
the source is at the center here.
Right.
Now, the thing is, we were talking about wanting to be at the center, and that's what the universe wants you to do, because we're supposed to all focus on our energies on each other, and that's how we resound. Some people think that someone's just loud and boisterous, uh, when they don't understand that the universe is just working with them sometimes. Some people think that they just want to be the center of attention, like a lot of comedians or a lot of people who have that spark in their eye. They could be looked at as being in the center of the current. Now, if you were to take yourself out of the center of that current and step out of the whole torus, then you can allow that torus to emanate a field, and you can be in that field, not outside of it, but have a direct connection to source, and understand that we are not the center, we are not God, but we have, and this is why we needed a bridge. We needed a gap. We needed someone or something to show us that there was a connection to our Father, to God, so that we could stop killing people, because the uh, the death cults that were existing back in the days of Jesus would have people kill their firstborn on the regular, and just that's what, because there's power there. Unfortunately, there's power in the blood. There's a dark power there, and people use that dark power. And the dark power didn't need to be done anymore with the sacrifices, and we had to get out of our mentality. Now, think of how big of thinking this was back then, 2,000 years ago or so, whenever Jesus was on the planet. This type of thinking was way out of the box, and it still is out of the box thinking that you love your neighbor. Just these basic principles. Take yourself out of it. We need a connection. If some of us can't get there on our own, then grab the hand of someone who did it, and go there, get in there, become the lineage of Melchizedek. There's an order before Christ. It's been talked about in the New Testament and the Old Testament, and that's the order of Melchizedek. That is being a light bearer, being having no essence before essence was essence, being like you're talking about, a supernatural, multi-dimensional being. So just some stuff there.
Yes. Yes. And when I teach about chakras and this particular energy formation that I was just holding up, that's all with the intention of it being the precursor to the higher dimensional version of that chakra shape. That really, even if you look at the camera in just the way that this is flattening this out in just the right way, the front red edge, let's see if I can trace it because it's backwards here, the front red edge and the back red edge over here, they tend to make like a DNA crossing, like where my finger is going back behind here. So you can, I hope that you, and I'll share an animation too, but understand this shape here is made by the oscillation of that source or singularity up and down very fast. So you're looking at the end result of a dynamic, oscillation here. And so we have a singularity at this point and singularity at this point, but that's not the same as a duality. Just like if you have a multiple exposure image of a person, swinging a tennis racket, and it looks like they have 10,000 arms, but they don't have 10,000 arms. It's one arm moving through time. So this shape is the end result of if you take this shape and you oscillate it like this. So imagine if you take all of these energy centers on your body and you start getting them to oscillate, and they can oscillate in all sorts of different axes too, like forward, to the side, to the other side, up, down. This is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna, the dance, actually is. So it's an internal dance, a subcellular dance, but also I do a macroscopic dance with actually moving my arms and legs. But I was, had to work up to that. It took me many years because I was dealing with overcoming neurological damage that sometimes it made it difficult to like coordinate my body, coordinate all of my limbs at the same time. That's been a whole journey. Like same thing with learning music and learning to play with both hands, that it's been a long journey to be able to do that through, like I said, my body is a handyman special fixer-upper, had to do a lot of fixer-upping in order to be able to do that. So primarily, think of this dance as a subcellular oscillation, but also it has a big impact on how you experience time and how your body is formed and the events that you're experiencing as you move through time. So it is all about achieving greater levels of perception and empowerment in your relationship to being submerged in time.
Wow, you really have that down. Um, it, it, every time I look at this, I want to show something that.
Yeah.
Can I show it here?
Do it. Do it.
Okay, so I shared this. What this exactly what you just said
Right?
is exactly what I'm showing in this presentation here in
Beautiful.
helicon physics.
Beautiful.
Now, helicon physics is helicon waves are what happens when the energy from the sun comes into the earth and breaks up into individual packets. Now, I believe your flying rainbow lasagna is a helicon wave. And if you look up what helicon waves are, you can see that it is moving like a chirp in one direction with a skirt around it.
Uh-huh.
Now here, I'll pull up helicon wave. Now, this is the sound of the Aurora Borealis.
Oh yeah. I've done some music with that. Because sometimes it sounds like ooh, but sometimes it sounds like pew 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 pew.
Yes. This is what your flying rainbow lasagna is. It's a
That's right,
helicon
man.
wave.
That's right.
It's a certain helicon wave, and so this is like this literally is where I want to get my PhD. I want to go back to school to do this. I don't care if I have to like get a full ride scholarship or something to make it happen, which I probably can do, but this is what I want to do is helicon physics, and I think that's what's going on. You got the skirt around it. So when you were talking about dancing inside of the vortex, when you showed me the vortexes that you drew,
Right?
I'm just blown away because you have the lenses like perfect right here.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, how the heck does Aurora know this? And like you know it because you know exactly what it is and you're talking about it. And this is exactly what nature is doing. Nature's doing exactly what you're talking about. This is a peacock spider.
Beautiful.
And
Yeah.
and it orchestrates the dance. Its arms go right along this vortex right here.
Right.
Everything does. Its eyes, the pinch
Yep.
of the plasmoids of everything does this.
Yep. And that's the answer that I would give to you as to how I know. It's a part of my embodiment. It's a part of my structure and my form. And when I make artwork or when I express music, I'm expressing that truth that I carry internally into this external world. And I feel like that's the job of an artist or a musician. Like you take the truth that you embody inside and you express it as something tangible that other people can see in the quote unquote the outside world.
It
But
is. That's why we have the cultural horizons. We're the
right,
cultural creatives.
right,
You know,
right,
we can see right over it,
right.
and not even know that we're seeing full clearly. Just know that what it is, what we're seeing is there.
That's why it's so important to be your true shape. Like, don't try to conform to the shape and behavior that society finds socially acceptable. Because if you are a unique shape, it's the shape that the world needs in order to move forward or to have like a new rhythm or new melody injected into the symphony of life. That if everybody conformed perfectly to everything that was a pre-established song and just played all of those songs, then you would have an entropic system. You'd go to entropy because you need to have these new and unusual, unexpected shapes. That's one of the most important things of this Flying Rainbow Lasagna. It's about innovation. Like it's about making something new and unexpected, not like classical music, even though those patterns are beautiful, they've already been established for whatever, 400 or 600 or 700 years. But what we're doing is genetic jazz, where it's spontaneous and it's responding in the moment to our context, because every day the energetic weather patterns are different. Like every day it's a little bit of a different context. So every day my artistic expression is different, my body physical expression is different, the music that I play or that I listen to is different, the events of my life are different. That's
Novelty.
how it should be. And
Yeah.
just make the contrast with that and the industrialized world where you always wake up at the same time, you always go the same place, you always do the same thing. That being in that box is like, this soul crushing death that
Dude,
is not what we're supposed to be
and
doing.
teaching the kids that
Yeah.
too, teaching the kids repetition,
Yeah.
the food pyramid,
Yeah.
and like, no, I'm all about breaking it up so they have no idea what's going on and what's happening next, because that's what adds that element of surprise, spontaneity,
Right.
and good Lord, there's a reward for my deeds.
Right. And I think that's even how we supersede whatever technological intelligence there is that's at play here, like a machine intelligence, something that's
Creativity.
artificial. That's it. We are truly creative. We are truly connected to the source of creativity, which is
Hmm.
divinity. Like that's where new babies come from. That's where new ideas and art projects come from. We've got a lot of juice, and that gives us this power to make jazz. And I talk about this, I've taught about it for many years. Now is the moment. Like I think a lot of people culturally thought that December 21st, 2012 would be the moment to, jump into a new reality. But I'm telling you guys, right now is the moment. Like every day is the moment to springboard, let's say, out of the matrix or out of the world of regularity and machine intelligence and into this world of jazz and spontaneity and unexpectedness, and that you don't have to wait for
You're my
anybody's
favorite.
permission to do it. Like just do it, and then everything unfolds. And then they write the science papers about it afterwards. Like that's the point. Like it's not the math and the science that brings you to that transcendent moment. Like what made Jimi Hendrix play like that? It wasn't like the formalism of it. It was the creative genius inside. I want everybody to access their own, like pure white hot, pure creative genius inside to jump into a new level of reality, to experience time and perceive time and create reality in a completely different way. Like you would think of the torment of going to your boring old job will feel like a different lifetime in another world.
I feel like whatever creature you are, you're my spirit animal.
Thank you. I'm honored.
I love it. I
Honored.
just
Be your totem, and I will inspire you on your own quest, on your journey.
I love it, and the entirety of the message is there too. It's complete package, like you say. It's not a shape anymore. It is transcending into the conduit, and the just really drawing into the epigenetics of becoming you don't need you don't necessarily need all this weird body modification or anything. I mean, that is in a lot of indigenous cultures. You don't need to put the hooks through the back to be afraid to break your bonds with the knowing, but that does allow a level of vulnerability and truth to be expelled. So I'm not going to demystify and put any uh, say anything bad about that because I'm very close and tied into the Native American church.
Right?
And out of all churches, that's the church that I found.
Beautiful.
Um, but it's still not my church, you know, like it's a cosmic union that we have here in the universe. So the church is alive and it's us. We are the living body.
I'm totally with you. I was very naive when I first came here into this world, and because I had had this, very positive experience that involved Christ, and I saw the religion that is here on earth, and I didn't understand really about, pardon me for saying it, the very rampant corruption in the church that it took me many years to
All of
understand
that.
about that. So that
Yeah.
was why I just like you come here like a little kid and you're like, yeah, like this is about worship and singing and great stuff. And then you kind of see like, oh, like there's a lot of imbalances and this isn't quite right. And wait, I don't actually agree with this stuff. Then you kind of like
Yeah.
find your own way. So I did kind of, distance myself from that as I learned more about it. And then I became highly critical of the way that some aspects of Christianity make it appear that death is not only inevitable, but something desirable. That, like, in order to achieve eternal life, my main criticism is that Christianity says you should die and then be like resurrected again. And to me, that feels against what I feel like makes sense. You stay alive, like, you just stay alive, avoid death. Don't like go at an angle, hit the membrane of death, and then somehow magically get off of the membrane of death. Like, go up the center the way you're supposed to go and avoid dying. And I think that's big because we have so many things that tell us like you'll die and go to heaven, or that the planet will be destroyed and be reborn. But really, I think the most virtuoso thing to do with your creativity is to avoid death, and you stay alive, and you transform. Like, you're not the same person when you get access to certain information or certain abilities. Like, there's who you were before and there's who you are after. It's not a death, but it's a transformation. That is what we can experience in this level of like leveling up and becoming more like the word might be grace, or like getting more energy, becoming mature. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what our journey is here, like to go out of infancy into maturity, and then you can do and see a whole lot more stuff.
There it is. There's we have Aurora with the flying rainbow lasagna. Well, we have it's about 2 hours in. I don't want the episodes to be too long.
Yeah.
I think we got a good understanding of your art, my art,
Yeah.
and philosophies, uh, and how they intermingle. And I think I would love to do some collaborative work with you. I don't know if we could figure out something collaboratively, but
It's very exciting. I would love to.
your work is just so inspiring, and I'd love to buy a dress. Do you?
Oh, of course.
No.
I have menswear too. Like, I have hoodies and button-down shirts and things for men, and I have things that are, just unisex homewares, and yeah, I have lots of good stuff for
Awesome,
everybody. Yeah.
awesome. So we'll have to everybody check out the website there at flyingrainbowlasagna.com.
Yeah, and I spell lasagna with an E on the end because like it's already not long enough and weird enough sounding, but then I have to spell it differently too. But that I didn't understand when I first came here how difficult that would be. But again, it's like having a one name type of thing. Like that's the whatever
It's unique.
the situation I made for myself.
All right. Well, thank you for your time here, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank
And like I said, you're the first guest. This is a brand new thing that we're starting here, and I really am honored to have you as a guest, the first one.
thank you. I really appreciate you having me.
I think it's going to help all the viewers start to understand where we're going with this, as we unfold it and get Michael Evans on and all these shape creators. We're shape finders. That's what we
Good,
are. We're shape
good,
finders.
nice.
So thank you. Have a beautiful night, and hopefully we can do another podcast again.
I would love to return. Thank you so much.
Electric Universe Geometry is a Love is Watching production, produced executively by Buddy James, music by the acronym BUD. Thank you for being here. See you on the next episode.